Jennifer Berger, I work with Stantec, Vice President of Mining, Minerals and Metals for Canada.
Hi, my name is Claudio Cossio. I'm Vice President of Mining, Minerals and Metals for US.
So we do a lot of work around improving efficiency, optimization, focusing on sustainability, including decarbonization, electrification. One of our success stories would be an energy audit that we completed where we focused on what opportunities there were for optimization through identifying how energy was being used to create value. And if you really take your time and work through the details of that exercise, you can identify gaps, you can prioritize the opportunities, and we were able to successfully improve throughput and reduce costs at the operation.
Okay, the other ones is we look at a lot of the alternative energy sources that are coming up, especially with the new technologies. So we're doing a lot of evaluations, especially in the solar and wind space in the US, and trying to identify how those technologies can improve the efficiencies, reduce the carbon footprint, and also enhance the operation, for a more sustainable future and dependent less on the grid. We have a couple of projects where these projects are going more to independent energy source instead of depending on the electric grid. So that's a huge opportunity for the mining industry where they don't have to depend on a large grid to operate in a clean manner.
Yeah, I think the approach that we take is very systematic, and it can be applied, to a number of industries or sectors. Mining has a very mature health and safety culture, and I think we leverage that in terms of how we approach risk management systematically. We approach risk management with respect to the environment in a very similar manner. And we want to make sure that we're identifying, the highest risk activities and implementing the highest level of controls that we can to reduce that to the lowest reasonably achievable levels.
Yeah, and with that too, just to add to Jennifer's comments is we really try to improve on or reduce the risk by through engineering. Not so much through controls, because controls can fail at times, or people can make mistakes. So whatever we can eliminate at the beginning through the process, brings that much more efficiency. And at the end of the day, like Jennifer mentioned, it is imperative for our people or the people in the mining industry to go home safely. And it's a leading industry in the world, right? So I think it's something that we take to pride, and safety is, it's not a priority. It's something that it's a value. So we need to make sure that, when we're doing our processes and we're, doing anything innovative, is that we're not introducing other hazards.
I think there is still a lot of reluctance in the industry to be first with respect to new technologies. I think the technology is emerging more quickly than we can implement it. So making sure that we're selecting, technology that's fit for purpose, practical, cost effective, doesn't have downstream impacts. Really, that takes time and investment to really understand and deploy. We've seen a lot of uptake or increase in the use of battery electric vehicles, but they're still not used industry-wide. I think that's one example of a technology. Again, electrification, just generally speaking, right? Moving away from, traditional compressed air. There's a lot. The list is lengthy at this point, but we are making progress, and things are certainly improving in terms of the implementation.
Yeah, I think the only two other items I would add as far as technology is, we're lagging behind on the reuse of water. And how can we reuse it not only through the mining process, but also how the communities we work around is how can they benefit from either the water that the mine produces or or how do we reprocess water to make sure that it's something that could be used long term. And the other thing too is thinking about the end of the mine life at the beginning of the process, right? At the beginning of the engineering process. There are a lot of, especially in the U.S., there are a lot of abandoned mines, legacy mines that unfortunately were not, mined, with the environmental conscious, 40, 50 years ago. So now there's a huge opportunity to return those assets into a better environmental position than they were, 50 years ago. So taking those and improving the community around those, it's a huge opportunity. Yeah, so mining. I mean, I can lead with this, especially because I think Canada it's a leading industry when it comes to the community and how we engage with the community. But it's something that in the past it was almost like an afterthought, and right now we've got to be really proactive, right? Yeah, we can generate jobs, we can generate opportunities for the community, but if the community is not on board on how we're doing the mining, how we're doing, the entire process, it's something that is not sustainable over time, right? And you're going to have challenges all the way through, right? So, but I mean, I'll turn it over to you because I think Canada it's a fair example of what we need to do moving forward.
The engagement of all of the stakeholders, right holders, including our First Nations communities, is key to success. And it's not just participation; it's intentional engagement throughout that process and collaboration and making sure that everybody is aligned and understanding the approach. There's a lot of education that's happening in the mining industry, whether that be from young students to elders and communities, just explaining what we do, trying to get people involved in mining and understanding the benefits. Everybody's got a cell phone these days. You wouldn't have one without mining, right? And so sharing that information and that knowledge is really important.
So I think one of the things that for me, I've been involved in a few projects that are have taken from that massive open pit to the underground and learned a lot to that process, what not to do, what not to do. But the opportunity is great, especially in a country like Mexico, where now that the mining regulations are changing and the environmental regulations are changing. Is how do we make mining with even a lesser footprint than before? I think that's where the opportunity, and looking into how those mines are also profitable. How do you bring that experience? Because it's a huge difference between an open pit mine to an underground mine. And where are the risks, where are the challenges? But there are a lot of opportunities, right? Especially from a sustainability perspective, and also from you can be more selective on how you mine. So I think that's what it could be exciting for the country, and to get more of a labor skill force that is more underground. I think that's it's definitely a huge opportunity.
I think there's a lot of really exciting projects as well that are in the early stages, whether that be exploration or they're starting to advance through the study phases. We're thinking about that transition, and the opportunities at depth, are really important because you want to consider that to the extent you can during the design phase to make sure that those opportunities are available, as the life of mine progresses. It also helps with the capital if you can extend that life of mine. So, thinking about that and how we can help projects advance from the early stages, right through into operations and eventually into closure.
I think the impact will be positive. I think because a lot of the underground mines are typically have higher grade ore bodies, so you need to move less material than an open pit mine. So I mean, like I said, the environmental impact is a lot less, and the opportunities to what to do with an underground mine at the end of this mine life. So I think it's definitely something that needs to be looked at with a lot of a higher level of detail to ensure that what are we doing with the waste? How can that be reused for something else? Or simple things like reusing the waste to put it back in the mine as a backfill opportunity, whether that's just a rock fill or cemented rock fill. It reduces your surface impact, right? Those are just some of the things. The energy consumption, from a power perspective, underground mine it's a lot less, just because, like I said, you're moving less material, so the opportunities just keep adding up and keep going, right? I mean, and typically, like I said, the footprint at the beginning and at the end of the mine, it's a huge difference from an open pit to an underground.
Yeah, there's a lot less environmental disturbance when it comes to underground mining. It's less disruptive to communities. It can also be more scary to communities because you can't see what's happening necessarily, and so that education component is very important. But yeah, Claudio, you're absolutely right. Just the footprint is much smaller with respect to the size of the excavations. What infrastructure you actually need on surface to be able to operate underground is considerably smaller, and therefore has less impact.
I think the last aspect, maybe, and we'll hopefully mention it tomorrow, is also the water aspect. When you have a larger footprint, you have a larger risk for handling more water, or potentially coming in contact with more water than in the underground space. In the underground space, you got a more opportunity to contain. How do you rehandle that water, and how can you reprocess it, right? So I think that's another huge factor that some of these projects need to consider. First and foremost is, like anything else, is the sharing of knowledge and information. What worked, what didn't work. I think being open about that. I mean, a lot of times, as an industry, we don't share enough. Even back to the health and safety, I think maybe 20, 30 years ago, there was that gap that companies did not share that information on incidents, and that could help other companies not make the same mistakes. I think if we take the same approach as we take with safety, as far as innovation, sustainability, and I think the industry's getting there, but I think that's the biggest opportunity, because many mining companies are doing different things, and each mine is very unique, but a lot of things can be applied across the industry. So learning what not to do, what the opportunities, what the risks are, I think could be a differentiator along the way.
I'd say sharing goals as well, and so having aggressive goals and aligning on those, it pushes the solution providers to bring new technologies and new solutions to the business, and be able to offer something that helps us achieve those goals. So aligning on that and really striving together to achieve them, it will change the face of the industry.
I think not so much from a personal perspective, from a team perspective, I think one of the things that I really enjoy is our diversity of the workforce, not only from a technical perspective, but from a background as far as either engineering, operations, contracting. I think that diverse set of experience all around can really be a differentiator as far as looking at hopefully all the options possible, all the opportunities, looking at risk a little differently, so we can actually mitigate it right from the beginning. I think that's really, and it's not only from a Stantec perspective, but also from when we work with clients, right, on projects. Is having that diverse team from an experience and background perspective. I think it's something that I find very exciting.
I would add to that. I mean, the environmental, social, and governance aspects to our business are increasing tremendously, and there's a lot of pressure from investors for us to do things more sustainably, more responsibly, and we know we're not only doing it for those reasons, but we're doing it because we're passionate about the communities that we work within, and I think that's key. And just making sure that we're really engaging with those communities, and we're working together to find solutions that work for everybody. Stantec.com, our Stantec.com website has a lot of information related to sustainability. We are ranked, amongst our industry peers. We're the highest ranked by the Corporate Knights, and so we're not only designing that way, but we are running our own organization responsibly and understand what it takes to see through that commitment. And so there's a lot of information available on our website.